Right. Hey, how y'all doing today? Let me get this over here. Okay. All right. How's everyone doing today? I am Tequila Coleman, best-selling author and certified life coach. Listen, tonight we have our special guest, Dr. Eddie Connor. He's going to come on and, share with us his insight and wisdom on how to deal with a difficult dad. For those of you who are tuning in, if this is your first time, welcome. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to this channel. Hey, Royalty. Royalty said, hey, TC. Hey, Dr. Eddie Connor. Good evening. Good evening to you, Royalty. Thanks for joining us tonight. So again, he's going to come on and share his insight on how to deal with a difficult dad. Now, let me just share why I asked him to come on tonight. Because for some of you, well, number one, I asked him to come on because he represents everything different, right? If you have a history of being mistreated by men, right? Maybe your father wasn't there, or your baby's father. Maybe your father wasn't there, or maybe he mistreated you, or your baby's father doing the same thing, right? This might be your current reality, right? So I wanted him to come on because it represents what's different. And you all have heard me use the word corrective experience, right? Where, where you are just seeing something different. This is one of the ways how healing comes about. Hey, Krayla, thanks for joining us tonight. But the second reason why I asked him to come on is because you all have heard my perspective on dealing with a difficult dad, but I think it would be beneficial, for you to hear from a man's perspective, right? And just get greater revelation around how to navigate this particular situation. Hey, well, thanks for joining us tonight. So, it's my prayer that God will open up every queen eyes tonight, so that you can see, open up your ears to hear, and open heart to understanding that, grant you into a whole nother level of healing. Okay. God is doing a new thing in this season. And I want everyone who's tuning in tonight to come into agreement with this word, with what Dr. Connor is going to share with us tonight, okay? Because it's time to go to that next level. It's time to heal and be set free, all right? So with that being said, we're going to welcome Dr. Connor to tonight's live stream. Welcome, Dr. Connor. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be with you. Yes, indeed. Glad to be with you tonight. We thank you for all that you do for especially our single mothers, and just helping and empowering them to be successful. You really help to change and shift the paradigm and the mental state of all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as we are having this discussion, for those of you who are tuning in, if you have any questions, just go ahead, drop them in the comments. And when we get to the Q&A portion of the live stream, then we will take your questions, okay? So I first want to start off by, just asking you, Dr. Connor, how did you get to this place where you empower people to overcome obstacles? How did you get started doing what you're doing today?
It's a great question. There's a lot of growing pains of what I had to endure. 2021, I'm definitely not negligent of talking about my backstory and some of the obstacles I had to break through. 2021 marks 21 years being cancer free. So having to grapple and grow through stage 4 cancer as a teenager, and really live through dying places, and then just shift my perspective. Been in a number of different situations of having overcome the obstacles, being told I'd never go to college, and now being a professor at a college, to pivoting and just breaking through and breaking free. Growing up growing up in a divorced household and knowing what it's like to deal without your father being there. Oftentimes that question becomes, how do you play a role when you weren't given a script? How do you become a man if you don't see one, much less interact with one? Many of the questions that I had to grapple with, that I had to find answers to. And based on that, now much of my work is dealing in relationships, written 12 books. My latest one is Relationship Rules. But even before that, mentoring young boys and empowering boys to move from boyhood to manhood, and dealing with all of those aspects and ramifications as a result of it. So that's everything I've been through has made me who I am.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. The other day, I have your book, Wife, but I was listening to it on Audible, right? And
Yeah.
I was and listen, look at this cover, right? Look, break. Look at this cover, y'all. Okay. Yeah, listen, okay. The cover alone will cause you to go pick up a copy of the book, okay? But I was listening to Wife on Audible, and I was in chapter 11, where you talk about presently absent, and you were sharing how, you were raised in a single parent home, and how your mom, she taught you, how to love God and how to be a gentleman, things of that nature. So, can you share with us, what was it like being raised, in a single parent home?
Without a doubt, even though there was love in the home, it was difficult because um, I remember being a kid. I idolized my dad. I don't know. I'm a sports aficionado today, but I think a lot of that emanates from him playing sports, him putting me in front of the TV, him being the
Mhm.
person who I wanted to idolize and model. And then all of a sudden, there's a divorce that ensues. And when children are caught in the middle of that divorce, a lot of times they're asking the questions, am I the result? Am I the reason why the divorce took place? Is it because of me? If I was not in the picture, myself and my brother, um, would they have stayed? I mean, these are types of questions that kids deal with. And it put me into a state of depression, put me into a state of low self-confidence and low self-esteem. I started being the class clown, started acting out, started having attitudes. And a lot of times us as boys, we project the anger that we have towards an absent father onto our mothers, because now
Mm,
she's standing in proxy for an absentee father. My
mhm,
grades were suffering, and this was at the time that I also was afflicted with stage 4 cancer too. And
mhm,
it's as I'm fighting, I really wanted to give up, but it's really a mother's love that sustained me to live through dying places, as well as mentors, male mentors. Even my grandfather, God rest his soul, who told me, Eddie, you never have to do it. You never have to tell anybody how good you are. If you're good at what you do, they'll tell you. So not only did he teach me how to tie a tie, he taught me how to be tied to success. Uh,
mhm. All right. So how did you deal with all of that? Like, how did you deal with your father being absent out of out of your life, and just divorce in general?
I dealt with it by looking at a lot of times not so good role models. Um, I think when you don't have a father in your life, now you look for a replacement. At that
Mhm,
time, Michael Jordan was my replacement. It was Denzel Washington. Sometimes it was the bad example in the neighborhood that became the surrogate father. It all now deals with you being in conflict with what is real masculinity. Um, it's easy to be a male, but we're not really shown always the great examples of what it means to be a man. I'm grateful though, because I could have easily slipped through the cracks without positive male role models who stepped into my life, you know, it really would have been a daunting task for me to really try to put the pieces of my life together. Because I think when you really think about a father is the architect of his family, and he can't build it if he doesn't have a foundation within himself.
Right.
Proverbs speaks to the whole aspect: a good man leaveth an inheritance for his children's children. That means not just for his direct seed, but the seed that comes after his own seed. And so I think fathers, the importance of fathers especially, brings in that whole aspect of the emotional, the intellectual, the spiritual. And here is a word that we don't really hear: nurturers, right? We only think nurturing is just what women and mothers do, but fathers provide that emotional, they provide that intellectual, they provide that spiritual nurture. They provide that discipline in that direction, which is oftentimes largely been neglected for too long. So without that corrective structure and discipline, a lot of times we're like a ship without a sail. We're just tossed to and fro, trying to find our own way through life.
Yeah. Now I want to go back to something you said, and correct me if I heard you wrong, but when you said when you directed some of your anger towards your mom.
Sure.
Am
Yeah.
I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about that, because that is one of my questions. You know, like, how do you help your children, specifically the boys, your son? How do you help them to process that anger, their emotions, to where they're not resenting the mom or the father, you know, for not being there?
I think one thing is that we have to build a safe space in our home for our boys to be able to express themselves. And sometimes we have to teach them that self-expression is not effeminate.
Right.
You know, it's okay to cry, but it's what I do after I shed my tears that makes the difference. And you know, I don't really feel as if I took the time to really deal with the emotions of it. The way I dealt with the emotion was fighting in school. The way I dealt with the emotion was on the court playing basketball. The way I dealt with emotion was being the class clown at times, or being on the video games, because all of that, to a certain degree, became a distraction to where I didn't have to deal with the pain of what it is. And as a result, it became an abscess internally to where I'm dealing with bitterness that I didn't really address until I wrote my first book, Finding the Canon Cancer. And when I began to live is when I forgave. I started to live when I moved into a place of forgiving my father, and I forgave him before he ever issued me an apology. And I think that was a bold, incredible move on my end to get to that place of healing through those broken pieces and those broken places. And I think as a result of it, we've got to really, especially show some level of love and more commitment. You know, children spell love Time. And what they say is that the average mother spends really only about 34 serious, focused hours with her children on a daily basis. The father who's in the home only spends half that, 17 minutes. So if you're only spending 34, or he's only spending 17 minutes with his children on a daily basis, and there's 24 hours in a day, who's spending time with our children? You know, is it BET, MTV, PlayStation 3 or 4 or 5, whatever the case may be? And we're not building our children. As a result of it, we have a generation of softer men, and we have a generation of harder women. We have a generation of boys Our black boys are reading at a third or fourth grade reading level, and they're building
Mm-hmm.
prisons based on second, third, and fourth grade reading scores. And so when we really begin to think about this, the next group of leaders are coming from our sons. The next group of leaders are coming from our daughters, and even more so from our sons. What are we doing with them? What are you allowing them to watch, and what are you allowing them to listen to? Who are their mentors? Who are their coaches? If there's no father figure in the house, what grandfather can you put them around? What virtual mentor can you find? How are you training them to be leaders? And I'm grateful for my mother, who understood that I can't be a father to them. I can only be the best mother that I can be. And based on that, she would try to put me as much as she possibly could around mentors and coaches who could breathe and speak life into my spirit.
Yeah, that's good. And that's one of the things I do with my oldest son. He's in karate. But before he even got in karate, I had him like in football where he was around other male, mentors and stuff. Yeah, that's really good. I like what you said. You said you started to live when you forgave your father. That forgiveness piece is important. That is really important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the hard question. So how do you answer when your child come to you and ask you, like, where's my dad? How did you respond to that question?
I never really asked that question, but I think we can't leave children left to their own imagination. You gotta have the hard conversation. I'm gonna say that again. You can't leave children to their own imagination. You gotta have the hard conversation. That means we gotta do something that we don't normally do now, and that is sitting down at the table, having real serious conversation, not just yelling over to the room because he's watching TV and you doing your thing in your office or wherever the case may be, but actually sitting down together, having a family meeting, talking about the whole aspects of hopefully co-parenting if it didn't work out, whether it is a child out of wedlock or whether it is a divorce, marriage going awry or askew, and then also not bad mouthing the parent to the child, right? Because a lot of times, no matter how difficult it is with a baby daddy, a baby father, or your ex-husband or whatever the case may be, what is the narrative that you're passing on from that situation onto your child? Your dad is just this, da 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 da. He just a bad person. You just bad mouthing him to your child or to your daughter. Now the daughter internalizes that, well, I don't need no man. And now the son internalizes the bad narrative, well, I don't want to be a man.
Wow.
Right. So I think when we begin to, yes, tell the truth, but tell the truth in a way that's not diminishing the character of somebody else, and speaking life to your child, saying, hey, this is the situation. This is what happened. It's always your side, their side, the truth. But being able to shape it in a way that says, I'm here, I'm present, we're going to get through this. But I also need your cooperation as a son, as a daughter. Of course, it'd be even better if the other partner is sitting down at the table with you to talk about, hey, how we're going to co-parent this, that, and the other. But a lot of times that's not it, especially when you think about children in the Black community. 80% are born out of wedlock or don't have a father in the home. So it takes on a life of its own in that aspect, but you got to have the hard conversations with the child or the children.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. I absolutely agree. I had that hard conversation several times. So, hey, Lovely. Hey, Tia. Hey, Raquel. Thanks for joining us tonight, y'all. So let's talk about daughters. Okay, so how did you raise
Mm.
daughters? To where when she gets older, she doesn't suffer from daddy issues.
Great question. I think a father provides the imprint for what a daughter is supposed to look for in a man.
Mhm.
Um, Good, bad, otherwise. Um, the sons need the father for structure and direction. The girls also do too, but even more so for just guidance of what to look for. Because little does a woman know she's going to choose a man based upon the treatment, the good treatment or the mistreatment,
Yep.
by osmosis, just by inclination in general.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to choose that. And so when a father can rear his daughter, uh, of not necessarily saying it's not so much in speech, but it's in standards. This is what I'm modeling for my baby. This is what I'm modeling for my little girl. This is what I'm modeling because I want to be the first person to give her a rose. I want to be the
Mm-hmm.
first man in her life to take her out on a date and understand that she doesn't have to trade respect for attention. I want to show her what it's like for a man to open the door for her and
Mm-hmm.
also opportunities, and she can still maintain her dignity. So, I think that is, important because we're dealing with fatherless sons, a generation of fatherless sons. We're dealing with a generation of daddyless daughters, and based upon that ball being dropped, now, we see women trying to make men out of boys, to
Mm-hmm.
where oftentimes a woman will assume the masculine role because she was not shown how her femininity should be embraced, how her femininity should get respect, because maybe there was no father there to show her that it's all right to be uh, the dainty little girl, the dainty daughter that you can possibly be. But oftentimes she has had to assume the hard level of leadership because now she chooses uh, a boy who never had a father or didn't have a mentor, didn't have a coach, and now she's trying to make him become what she never had. And
Mm-hmm.
the cyclical cycle of cesspool and negativity continues to pass from generation to generation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is real good. That's really good. And that's I have two boys and a girls, and that's one of the things I have my sons do with my daughter. I have them open the door for her,
Mm-hmm.
and I make them aware when you're dealing with your sister, it's a certain tone to talk to her in because I don't want her to get in the habit of thinking, when she interacting with men, they supposed to yell at her or take a certain tone with her, put it like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really
Yeah.
good. So the question of the hour: how do you deal with the father wanting nothing to do with the child?
Mm. You know, Dealing with a father who doesn't want anything to do with the child um, is a difficult situation, undoubtedly. Um, a lot of times, we always one thing is this, and they may not like what I'm saying tonight. One thing is this:
Go ahead.
sometimes it's not always the man's fault. Sometimes a woman can put a man in a corner to where he doesn't want to deal with you because of how you talk to him,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think a man understands this. I can't argue with a woman. You couldn't argue with your mama back in the day. You know, you can't argue with a woman now. It's just no point in doing that, because all of a sudden you you're out of your masculine frame, and it makes no sense to do that because things get volatile. I think one thing is asking yourself the question, have I done possibly everything in my power that I could do to be reasonable with him, to try to be amicable with him, to try to co-parent with him? Cussing him out, fussing him out is going to just put both of you at odds. And as a result, now he punishes the child and you by not being in either of your life. And then for some people, that's not the case. Some women say, well, you know, I've done all that I possibly can. I've tried to rectify the whole thing. And, you know, I've tried to at least be amicable with them, this, that, and the other. Then sometimes this is what I've learned. And everybody may not agree, but sometimes what I've learned is sometimes one good parent is better than two bad ones. Knowing that because you're doing all that you can do, of course, pressure is made for shoulders, not for hips. And now you're dealing with the pressure of having to raise a child or multiple children. Now I think you need to begin to look for positive male mentors, positive male coaches, positive individuals who can supplement what you're trying to do. No, they may not be a boyfriend. No, they may not be a husband. No, they may not be somebody who you're dating and thinking about being with long term. But they can help to provide direction in this whole aspect of parenting, because great of a mother as you are not the father. And so you're going to need as many resources as possible, or as what we call them in the community, wraparound services, to provide what may be missing, but based upon even what might be missing can still lead to the key to really unlock the potential in that child. Because now it goes to the fact that this is bigger than just you. This is about another life that I'm trying to raise to impact the generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think another thing is this as well. You got to set up some boundaries for yourself. I think that might be dealing with later on, but I'll get to the boundaries a little bit later.
Okay. Okay. Now I want to go back because you stated how, you know, the way how a woman, you know, talk to the man, that can cause him to not, you know, take it out on the child. But how do you respect a man when he out of the womb rejected his own child? Like, how do you talk to this individual with respect? You see what I'm saying? You know, when he's difficult, he's rejected his own child.
But that's a hard pill to swallow, you know, dealing with a man from the child coming from the womb to, you know, from the onset, rejecting that child. You know, I think one thing is this: women have to realize laying down to have a baby with a man is not going to make him stand at the altar with you and get married. And sometimes women have allowed themselves to acquiesce to a man who was already showing you red flags. But like the queens that you all are, like the nurturers that you are, you want to try to build a man. I see potential in him. If I can just work with him a little bit more, I can make a great man out of him. I can Olivia Pope this brother. When people show you who they are, you got to believe them the first time. And sometimes now we're dealing with the ramifications of it, because now, hey, you did something permanent with somebody who now you found out was just temporary. It is hard to respect somebody like that, because you can't make a man stay where he doesn't want to be. And as beautiful as you are, as brilliant as you are, some men will forsake that whole level of responsibility. But at the end of the day, there's no respectability without responsibility. And I mean, we've seen it for years and years, the breakdown of the family, the breakdown of even the Black family, because we have not gotten to a value system and structure of recognizing that we're really better together, that we can work through this. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's still true that everybody who you have a child with, sometimes you realize that's not who you need to be with.
Yeah.
And the person being in the home might do more damage to the child than them being exited from the home.
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely right.
You didn't lose anybody, you gained self-respect.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. 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 I see y'all question. Keep on posting them in the comment. We're gonna get to it when we get to the Q&A section. So how do you deal with what do you do if the father is coming in and out?
You know, if the father's coming in and out, that's because you keep you haven't stood in the doorway. You know, because you leave the door open for him to come in and go out as much as you want him to, or you're maintaining a relationship, intimacy or otherwise, with him that goes just beyond the bounds of being a co-parent. If you don't set up any healthy boundaries for yourself, he's just going to continue to do that. And really, sometimes our situation is a reflection of our selection. We willingly decide to let be in a revolving door relationship because you haven't, and we talked about this in our relationship academy, you haven't flexed your no muscle.
Right.
You know, you haven't drawn a line in the sand and saying, this is what I will and what I won't tolerate. You know, you want to touch on me, but you don't want to touch on the topic of dealing with the children that we now have.
Yeah.
You got to set up some healthy boundaries for your you got to set up some healthy boundaries for your peace of mind. You got to set up some healthy boundaries for your children, because here it is. Your children don't do necessarily what you say, they do what they see you do. So if your child just continues to see, oh well, this man just keep coming in and out of the house. You know, he's physically present, but on every other aspect, he's absent. You know, I think you've got to set that up for your own peace of mind, for your own stability, but also to let him know that I love my child, I love myself, and this is bigger than just beyond what we have. This is about this whole family unit. That whether or not you want to lay down horizontally with me, now's the time to actually stand up and do what it takes to co-parent.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
No has to become new opportunity.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said what you just said, because this is similar advice I give, you know, here on the channel. You know, I don't deal with an inconsistent father. You know, it's like you either going to be a father or you're not. That's my way of doing things. And simply, and another reason is too, I have a daughter, and I don't want her thinking this is how a man is supposed to show up in her life, inconsistent. No, you know. So you're absolutely correct. It you got to have boundaries, and flex that no muscle. Um,
Mhm.
so how do you deal with a difficult dad? Now, listen, before you get started, because I know you're gonna take off. Get your pen and paper out, okay? Because he's about to drop some nuggets. So go ahead. How do you deal with a difficult dad?
I think really the way you deal with a difficult dad, um, listen, you got to have number one, you got to have discernment. You got to have you got to have a prayer life, which I think is necessary because you're going to have to make some serious decisions that are going to impact your life, but also the life of your children. And so you really need to get discernment and direction on how to talk to the man, uh, but also not to reach out of loneliness, not to reach out of feeling insecure, insufficient internally, um, and be able to rely on God, but also rely on the strength that He has given you. Um, I think another thing is um, being able to deal with a difficult dad is it goes back to those boundaries, and to take it to another degree, boundaries are a blessing. Not having boundaries are a burden. You see, boundaries are going to provide you with the opportunity to sift through your own set of beliefs, to pick out what you think is helpful, and then to reject the rest of what is not advantageous or good to you at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Dealing with all of that speaks to the whole aspect of you also need um, to really check on the mental stability of your children. I think beyond just providing them with a roof over their head, a hot meal in their belly, virtual schooling, because we're there now,
Mm-hmm.
and just clothes on their back or the flyest Jordans that are on their feet. Now it's going to really go to the emotional, socio-emotional aspect of maybe there needs to be therapy, right? Because I mean, if you really think about it, with all of what we have been through as a people, we show enough need prayer. We show enough need. Yes, we got prayer, but you need therapy. You got Jesus, but you need some
Mm-hmm.
therapy too. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, and I realize this, and I'm grateful because there was times in dealing with the difficulty of a divorce that I went to therapy. And my mother took
Mm-hmm.
me to therapy to talk to a counselor. Certain things I didn't want to necessarily feel like I wanted to talk to her about, that I talked to a counselor about, or that I talked to a male mentor about. So being able to check on the social emotional aspect of our children, not just setting them in front of the TV, but can you give them? Can you have a book that both of you read about
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, processing all of what is going on? Can you have therapy? Can you have many of these courageous conversations that are needed and necessary that we always sweep under the rug? And when you sweep things under the rug, it just leaves a lump. So I
Yeah.
think all of that and being able to process it, um, and then hopefully creating some form of an amicable relationship with him. And here it is. It might be acquiescing because when you think about it, both parties, both of y'all didn't do everything right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was wrong on both ends. I'm sure sometimes in conversation or
Mm-hmm.
in communication or in miscommunication, right? Sometimes you have to extend the olive branch even when you feel and even possibly know that you're in the right. You know, for the sake of our children, I know we may not have been able to make it, or our relationship fell by the wayside, but this is bigger than the both of us. You know, if there was anything, sometimes we like to say, well, if there's anything that I did wrong to you, and sometimes we know what we did, but we want to say that anyway. But just being apologetic about whatever it is. What can I do to help you co-parent?
Right.
You know, have you ever asked that question? Because a lot of times we just say, well, he ain't doing nothing. He just dropping the money off, or I'm just getting the money sent to me, da da da. But you know, that's about all he's good for. Providing resources, and he was just a sperm donor. A lot of times we just calculate the relationship to that. But have we ever asked the question, how can I possibly help you co-parent? And I think when you exhaust many of those things, within all of that, you might find a silver lining.
That's good. That's good. So, okay. So what if you had that conversation with the father and his response was, he's not ready to co-parent? Then what?
Well, listen, you can't make a man step up to the plate, you know, and hit a home run if he won't even come to bat. I think as a result of that, I think you got to look for wraparound resources. You know, you got to look for, you know, that uncle or that brother that's in your family. You got to look for the grandfather who, you know, he's still living. You got to look for the positive males that you may know, or the coaches that maybe you get a son or daughter involved in some type of sporting activity, and you know, you express certain concerns. I think now you have to look for those resources, because when my mother began to look for other resources for me, you know, when I was a hothead, or when I might have had an attitude, or when she didn't seem like she was able to get through to me, she was able to find them. And for me, it was a principal. For me, it was a math teacher and the husband of a homebound teacher when I had cancer. Both of those, my principal being a black man, but those two other men were white men who I had no type of common thread with, who didn't look like me. But it was just the deposit that they made in my life, whether it was an encouraging word or whatever the case may be. And those men will make deposits to where your children, or the children who are watching, will be able to make withdrawals for the rest of their lives.
That's good. That's good. All right. So okay, so let's go and let's talk about the father side of the family. Hey, Miss Stacy, thanks for joining us tonight. How do you deal with the father side of the family not accepting the child? Like, do you continue to send the child over there, you know, because maybe you know how kids have their favorite cousins or whatever? Do you still allow the child to go over there and visit, knowing they're mistreating the child? And they really don't want any involvement with the child. So how do you navigate that?
Of any form of mistreatment at all, you always take your child out of that environment, because a lot of times family who knows that there's a dissolution in the connection, sometimes they exacerbate their feelings onto that child, and as a result, the child now becomes a punching bag for how family members now feel, when in many cases a lot of the stuff is not the truth. It's just hearsay, or is a
Right.
person's interpretation of you. And now they imbibe that, and now they castigate that onto the child. And so, you know, I don't think you should ever allow, you know, family members to excoriate your children in that regard at all. And sometimes, you know, that's the part of the process. You know, you're not as close to certain family members based on that. I know for me, I'm not as close to my father's side based upon that divorce. It is unfortunately what comes with the territory.
Right.
And as much as you try to extend the olive branch or put some piece to the puzzle pieces, it just is what it is. And so sometimes you just gotta just brush your shoulders off, wash your hands of it, let the chips fall where they may, as hurtful as it possibly can be, and also talk to your children about it. Because guess what they're gonna say? Why can't I go over Brian's house no more? Right? You just can't keep saying, you just can't be lying to the children. Because after a while, now you're gonna look like the bad person when they find out what really happened. And you couldn't keep it 100 with them. And so now why would they want to keep it 100 with you? And so I think you just have to have just those conversations, and sometimes a smaller circle has bigger love in it. Sometimes a smaller circle builds greater character. Sometimes a smaller circle now has more in store for that child, to where things that might have been overlooked, you really take onus and responsibility to really watch and pay attention to, because you shouldn't subject your child to any form of abuse, even if it's verbal.
Right. Yep. Yep. I absolutely agree. That's one thing I'm big on. You know, I don't, not just talking about the father side, but my side of the family. I don't allow my children to deal with any type of mistreatment. I don't care who it's coming from. And I talk to my children about that, you know, how to spot mistreatment, you know, and just don't accept it. Now, here's the last question, okay? And every queen that's tuning in, I want everyone to listen to this answer, okay? Because I'm gonna be honest, when I hear this question, when I hear single mothers say this next question I'm about to ask, it bothers my spirit, okay? But I want everyone to listen to Dr. Connor's response and get understanding behind this question. So, will a man want a single mother with a certain number of kids?
I think when you look at that question, I think to answer that, I think you answer it by thinking about this. What can you do to be a benefit to a man who is coming to care for you and your children? Because I mean, really, that's what he's thinking. A man is not necessarily just thinking about, oh, we're going to be going on trips. We're going to have a great time holding hands, dancing through lilies and dandelions, and going on, posting our photos on social media, and really having all these memories. No, what he's thinking is, what are the assets and the liabilities? Right? Because if you have multiple children, now that's a bigger burden for him. It's more financially. What are the assets and the liabilities? As a matter of fact, do the assets outweigh liabilities for a man to want to attach himself to you? How are you a benefit to a man who's now choosing to be a stepfather to your son or your daughter? And that goes beyond just being able to cook and clean, because it could possibly be argued that, well, there's another woman across town who doesn't have any children who can cook and clean too. What are the other benefits that you can provide beyond just that? And I think you got to do that interpersonal inductive study to see, because at the end of the day, are you a helpmate or a headache? That's I mean, those are some serious questions that you have to answer. And he's going to want to know, are the children well behaved?
Mm-hmm.
Can a man discipline your children with your complete confidence in him? Right. And even when you think about, blended families, say for instance, he has children and you have children, oftentimes it's two sets of discipline. And oftentimes those two sets of discipline now create havoc and frustration because you're used to this form, he's used to that form. And now maybe you argue him down because of his form that you might take umbrage to. I think something else is that I think we have to also look at as well. Outside of, are your children well behaved? Can a man discipline your children, especially with complete confidence? Is it also that you possibly have a good man, but you would rather trade a good man for the idea of a better man? What do I mean by that? Are you overlooking men who are on your level and you're either friend zoning them or you're ignoring them? And maybe overlooking them because, well, he's not a six-figure earner. Are you? Right? If you're eliminating a man on money, it's equally valid or fair for him to eliminate you on age or eliminate you based upon how many children you have. Or even the whole aspect, do you want to have more children if he connects with you, if he hooks up with you, if he attaches himself to you, if he decides to marry you? Right? These are the things that men will be thinking about. What are the assets? What are the liabilities? Because if the assets don't outweigh the liabilities, then now that brings frustration.
So, okay. So I get everything you're saying. So I want to go back to the worth piece, because when I hear single mothers ask a question, or say, they don't think a man would want them because of however many children they have, I hear they are attaching their worth with the amount of children they have. So is your worth determined by the amount of children she have?
No, I think women are born with an inherent value and worth. Men, on the flip side, we have to work for what we're worth. So I think that's always ingrained and inculcated, because this is why you hear phrases such as the woman is the prize. No matter how many children a woman has or does not have, many of them are viewed as such, or they see themselves as such. But the amount of children that you have does not diminish your worth. Your choices have an impact on how you see. When you see yourself as worthy, your choice matter now changes. Right? When you see yourself as worthy, now in many cases your appetite for what you even have a desire for. Right? I love fried chicken, but I don't know if fried chicken love me. So I got to go to the baked version because I want to be able to have longevity in my life. I don't want my arteries to get clogged. What tastes good to me is not necessarily good for me. What looks good to you is not necessarily good for you. And so now it moves me to a place of moving in the direction of choice. And so, we always, especially even in scripture, we talk about who can find a virtuous woman, or price is far above rubies. But we fail to talk about Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, who can find a faithful man.
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're looking for a faithful man, are you a virtuous woman? Are you virtuous in your character and how you go about living your life? Are you virtuous in even the choice and the decisions that you make, or the people who you will even allow around your children, much less around you?
Mm-hmm.
Amount of children doesn't diminish the worth. Is your view on yourself and the choices that you make that will affect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope y'all caught that, okay? Because I always say your worth is not determined by the amount of children you have, okay? Just like Dr. Connor just said, it's not, you know, it's based upon your view. So you have to really work on your mindset, how you see yourself, how you view yourself, and really, I always talk about seeing yourself how God sees you, because that's where our worth comes from. So I'm glad you said that, and you shared that with the ladies here. Just to clarify, when you talk about discipline the children,
Mm-hmm.
are you referring to the boyfriend or the husband who has stepped up, as stepfather to these children? I want to
I'm
clarify that
talking about,
because,
yeah,
oh, okay, no,
definitely talking
I was
about the
just
husband.
right. I knew you were
Yeah,
talking about it. But I just wanted you to clarify that. So we're not allowing boyfriends to discipline the children, okay? So I just wanted to say that part. Okay. So we're gonna
right.
open up
But
for
even if you're thinking about, even if, especially as say for instance, you move from dating to courting, and now the person is a fiance, there's going to be a time, especially of that soon to be father, now spending time with that child more, because he understands that I'm not just marrying the woman in a silo. Everything that's attached to her is a package deal, right?
right.
And so I think these are the types of conversations that you have to have, especially when whether it's a man who has children, another man who does not have children, and you're now combining your resources together. What does discipline look like? Asking the hard questions that a lot of times we just want to be surprised by. Oh, I didn't know it was like this. But you should have asked that in the friendship dating phase,
Mm-hmm.
to where you're not, taken aback by, his level of discipline, because discipline is not abuse. That's another
Mm-hmm.
thing as well.
Say
So
it
I think that's,
again.
yeah, discipline is not abuse.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely. I was. You know what? It's so funny because I was having this conversation with one of my, I hired a nanny. I have a few nannies, but I was having this conversation with one of my nannies, and we were talking about this, like, some people have this misunderstanding, in the Bible where it say, that we are, don't quote me on the scripture, but it's talking about disciplining your children, right? A lot of people think that means beat them. No, it don't,
spare the, yeah.
spare the child. Yeah.
No,
You know,
it doesn't.
go ahead.
Yeah. Disobedience is the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from. Yeah, we use those scriptures, and we move into this whole aspect of trying to make the scripture fit. We try to eisegete. We try to make it fit our own perspective, and as a
Right.
result, we wind up abusing and taking out of context what was placed in the text, because we don't do it. We don't discipline out of love. A lot of times we're disciplining out of hate and rage, because
Right.
that boy or that daughter looks like the parent, and you
Mm-hmm.
had a flashback, and now you take it out on them.
Yep. Yeah. That is true. Oh, that is so true. You did it right on the head. Yep. Um, Royalty, she said, can this topic be related to a difficult mother?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. You could substitute father for mother. in this whole context and conversation. Because, you know, there are, listen, I've talked to many brothers, whether it's barbershop talk or whatever the case may be. And this is not a whole conversation to bash men at all. But there's a lot of good
Right.
brothers who want to be in the lives of their child, and want to do it in a way that is respectable and with some class and excellence. But the mother is an impediment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's the bad apple, and it's corrupted the whole apple orchard. Because it's her way or the highway. It's the fact that he's moved on, because the relationship wasn't working out, and he just wants to be in the life of the child. But now she's upset because he's moved on, and now she's creating problems. Right? So it goes both ways. As they say, it's deeper than rap.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I agree. Raquel said, "What was the biggest lesson that you have learned from not having your father around?"
Biggest lesson I've learned from not having my father around is, you can't keep playing the blame game all your life. And really, you know, the curse of not having him, and we're amicable. You know, we have an amicable relationship. You know, sometimes our conversation doesn't go beyond, you know, sports or you know, what I'm doing in my life necessarily. And that's fine. I've gotten to the place of understanding everything that I've experienced now help me to mentor other young boys. You know, when I'm able to mentor guys through my Boys to Books program, I'm able to speak to my 13, 14, 15-year-old self that was searching, that was angry, that was frustrated. And I'm able to hear all these stories about where these guys are and say, you know what? I'm not just telling you something that I heard. I'm telling you something that I have experiential knowledge in. It gets greater later. But you got to not just grow through this. Don't be bitter. Get better. To get around positive male mentors. Find a virtual mentor. You got so much exposure to the positive things. Don't choose the negative choices. So, and based on that, I mean, and I think it goes to the place of, if you are relegated as a single mother to whether it's raising a boy or raising a girl, especially our boys, it's so important that leadership training and exposure to the right is necessary, because who these boys will be 10, 15 years from now is what the next generation of women will have to choose from.
Right.
Do I just leave him to the ruins because I'm angered, because I'm not going to put my best foot forward because the man dropped the ball, whatever the case may be? It's so needed and necessary. Beyond just looking for a man, how am I raising my boy to be a man?
Yeah, that's good.
As best as I possibly can with wraparound resources.
Yeah, that is good. That's good. Deb, she said, "I'm 17 weeks pregnant and breaking my lease to be away from my alcoholic, emotionally abusive baby's father. Does he deserve visitation as soon as the baby is born? I'm afraid he will hurt our child." So does he deserve it?
Well, I mean, emotionally abusive and alcoholic, that sounds like an accident waiting to happen. He needs therapy, he needs treatment, and I don't think you have to to put your child in that environment, especially if you're not going to be around, much less at all. Because I mean, if you're breaking away, I mean, I think that the key word is here, you breaking your lease to get away from him because of these red flags, because of the emotional abuse and the alcoholism. Why, if it's not okay for you to be around him, why would it be all right for your child to be around him?
Yeah.
And if you're already feeling the fear of the possible hurt that could ensue, go with the gut feeling. Don't ignore that.
Yeah.
Because you can't put the paintbrush down, as we've talked about. Stop trying to repaint red flags and make somebody not who they are.
Yeah. Yep.
Or make somebody who they are, what they're not. However you say that.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say, trust your intuition. You said I'm afraid he will hurt our child. So that's enough. That's enough for me, to not even allow it, So go ahead and your intuition. All right, let's see. What's the next question? And if y'all are loving this, listen, Dr. Eddie Connor, he have a relationship academy, okay, where we talk about these things, okay? He have trainings on dealing with difficult people, red flags, all right? So head over to, what's the website, Dr. Connor?
Yes, Dr. Eddie Academy .com. I'll post it in the YouTube section, Dr. Eddie, EDDIE Academy.com. We focus on 3 levels: love, leadership, leveraging your purpose. And the type of insight that I'm sharing tonight, you get even more of that in our Relationship Academy. And we're so grateful that incredible sisters like Tequila are part of it.
Yeah.
And then I see some others who are on the YouTube chat too.
Yeah, we got Raquel, Tia. They also are part of the DEA family.
Love it.
So, yeah, Miss Stacy, she said, how to deal with my child's father going back to his ex-girlfriend, only to marry her after she spit in my face, and there's a restraining order against her. Our son is 6 months old. So how to deal with my child father going back to his ex-girlfriend?
Well, your child's father, I don't know what the connection is between you two in regards to, I don't know if you were dating him. Was he dating you while he was dating his ex-girlfriend, and then he marries her? And you said that she spits in your face. The thing is, and I don't know who has custody. Are you in a fight for custody? Do you have custody of the 6-month-old? The thing is, and is he going to fight for visitation rights, much less custody? I don't have all the answers to that, but as best as possible, avoid her.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you may be doing or how you all may be coming together to where she's in the vicinity. I would say to him that when we're dealing with each other, whether it's a conversation, whether it's visitation of the child or whatever the case may be, you don't want her around. Because I mean that's totally asinine for her to do that to you. And I don't know all the details regarding it, but having a 6-month-old child who could imbibe all this rage, even though he may not be able to put a word together, he's experiencing all of this, and it's affecting that child, the son, emotionally, to where you will see it when they're 2 or 3 or however old that they will be at whatever age. So, you know, I would have the conversation with your child's father that, you know, what goes on is between you and him. Based upon her action, she shouldn't be a part of the equation at all. Of course, you can't stop how he deals with her, because matter of fact, he married her. So it's blatant disrespect to you, especially if he's even allowing his wife to act like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to stay as far away from that as you possibly can.
Yeah.
For your own sanity and sobriety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because as saved as you may be, somebody spitting in your face. Listen, the old you is gonna come out of there, and if you were able to restrain yourself, my hats are off to you. I need to know how you restrain yourself in that specific way, shape, or form. But 9 times out of 10, many of us will not be able to restrain and just turn our back and turn the other cheek and walk the other way. So, not putting yourself in that hot space is best for you.
Mm-hmm. And I will also add, Miss Stacy, I will also add, because you said you got a restraining order on her and your son is 6 months old. So I would go back, I'm being honest, I would go back and, and let them know she's broke the restraining order, right? Maybe, you and father need a co-parenting agreement, a parenting plan, an agreement. I will also bring to the judge attention, if you get to this part, how old your son is. He's 6 months old. I would, I go in detail, because this is a situation you can't play with. You can't play with this. You can't play with her. She's breaking the restraining order. You got to put your foot down, right? So I would deal with her through the court and the father, just being completely honest. But I wouldn't, she wouldn't be spinning in my face. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Tia say, I'm the prize with 3 little gifts. I know that's right, Tia. Royce said, we also have to stop letting any man get our bodies. Exactly. Yes, 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 yes. Raquel, when do you see how he would discipline the child so you can have an open conversation before getting into marriage? Because he could say one thing but practice another. That's a good question. So when do you
What was
see?
that question again?
She said, when do you see how he would discipline the child so you can have an open conversation before getting into marriage? Because he can say one thing but practice another.
Yeah, I think being in a place to where you all are having corporate connections, whether that's dinner, whether that's some movie nights where all of y'all together, to where even sometimes you may bring to him an issue, that may be in front of the child, to where you just kind of see how he would respond, or what encouragement that he would provide to that child. I don't when you're talking about discipline, the whole aspect of even spanking a child. I don't know what fiance. I don't know what person lets their fiance spank a child though. So some things you're just not gonna see.
Yeah.
Until marriage. And check this out. If somebody wants to keep up a facade as best as they possibly can, it's a lot of good actors out here. There's a lot of good actresses out here. And, you know, God forbid they keep up this whole persona of who they are supposed to be. And then all of a sudden they just flip the script. But I think a lot of times you will see, based upon, I think you can't be looking at just how fine they are, that you're ignoring their actions. They're fine, but what else? You know, you just can't be looking at how attractive they are. They can be attractive, but not compatible. You just can't be looking at how handsome or pretty they are. What is it for them to be handsome or pretty, but they treat your children ugly? So I think you will see how he handles you, and then also how he handles everything that is attached and associated with you. And you'll see early on, you know, is he only kind to you, but he's mean to the children? I think you'll see early on, and based upon him being mean or ugly to your seed, much less his own if he has children, you wouldn't want that man disciplining your children anyway.
Yeah. And you know what, you're absolutely correct, because another thing you said this, but listen to how he speaks or talks, you know, about your kids. If he's coming in the door, you know, y'all dating or whatever, and he's saying things like, that boy bad, you know, it's like certain words, you know, just certain words, you know, he can say, never having anything good to say about your children. That tells you a lot. That tells you a lot.
Right.
I actually stopped dating, you know, because of this reason. I was like, oh, these guys are crazy. So, you know, just listen to how he speak about your children and how he interact with them, if he interact with them at all, you know. But, you know, I'll just keep it at that.
And another thing is as well, I want to say something to that as well, because mothers have a hesitancy, especially when it comes to boys. We love our sons, but we raise our daughters.
Yeah.
So a lot of times women are so, or mothers are so used to coddling their children or their boys, especially, that when a man comes in and provides some discipline, provides what might be categorized as someone who's very military-ish with structure and discipline, well, you're being too hard on them. Well, it's not so much that, is that he's helping to make a man out of a boy in a productive manner, in an encouraging way, in an empowering manner. Can you trust him to make can you see his actions and trust him to discipline right? You know, to say, hey, he may call the boy a son. You know, he may call him by his name. Let's have a conversation here. And then the son, he's giving good encouragement, but the son, I don't like how he talked to me. Because he's not used to another man holding him accountable. That takes some work. That takes some getting used to. And see, these are things that a man who's now stepping up to the plate to be, quote unquote, somebody's stepfather or possible, sometimes he's relegated to, you ain't my daddy, no way. You know how children are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, and sometimes your children will surprise you by what they say. So these are the things that he has to. This goes back to the assets and the liabilities of what I am able to do. Is he handcuffed to where he can't speak up, share his perspective, and then discipline with positive correction?
Right. And you know what? I think it has, for me, it has a lot to do with how that man communicates, like the discipline, concerning my child. Because I mean, just the same way how you were saying how if a woman, she's talking to the man disrespectfully, he's not going to want to interact with her. It's the same with the mothers. If you say it right, communicate it right to her, then she'll be open to listening. But if you come in the door, and you like a drill sergeant, get over here, do this,
You can't be coming in being major pain at first. You can't do that. I think that's why it's needed and necessary to have those critical conversations about what discipline looks like.
Yeah.
And even if, because I mean it's sad that our women have had to assume a masculine role so much of being the provider of the house, of working multiple jobs, whatever the case may be, of now trying to step up to be, some quote unquote surrogate father that they could possibly never be to their children. Now it takes time to relinquish, to take the foot off the brake and relinquish some of their role. That takes some getting used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're the main voice, now there's another voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Here's another question. She said he won a DNA test after 1 year of me chasing him, telling him she is your child. Now he knows she is her child. Now he knows she is her child and did not call me yet. What should I do? So let me read that again. He won a DNA test after 1 year of me chasing him, telling him she is your child. Now he know that is his child, and did not call me yet. What should I do?
Oh. Well, that's clearly a man who wants nothing to do with the child. That's clearly a man that they know the result, and based upon the result, they don't want to assume any place of responsibility.
Yeah.
I think it's a cautionary tale of being very, very cognizant of who we're choosing to be with, of who we're choosing beyond a brother with a slick ride or a smooth rap or whatever the case may be. Dealing with longevity, because now you're dealing with the internal frustration, you're dealing with rejection, and all of that is being imbibed onto the child who's caught in the middle of that. And so, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. You can't make a man be where he doesn't want to be. And of course, you think about courts, you think about child support, you think about visitation. Not even the courts. They can siphon the man's money all they want to, but they still can't make him be a present figure in the heart and soul of a child. That has to be a decision that a man makes. And now, for lack of a better word, having to step up to the plate because of this male who did not want to assume the role and responsibility of a man, now having to search for positive resources. I think that comes from it. So it's a tough aspect. Now you have to assume the responsibility of what he did not do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll take it a step further. Just eliminate his excuse. Go ahead and get him the DNA
Yeah.
test. You know,
Yeah.
after the test comes back as his, okay, now what? Like, now what?
Oh,
Okay.
I was reading that as he already knew that they possibly took the DNA test, and he knows as a child. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, but I mean that right. Give him the DNA test, but hey, if he's not going to even call to show up,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sad.
That's true. Yeah. All right. So here's the last question. I believe you already answered this question. But I'm gonna ask it anyway. So over on Facebook, they want to know how to deal with an absent father, how to handle his inconsistency regarding his present or lack of.
I think you teach people how to treat you. You know what you allow, what you don't allow. Um, sometimes we allow people to mistreat us because we don't put our foot down. Versus a lot of people um, treating us like a doormat and walking all over us. And so it goes back to crafting healthy boundaries. Of you get into the place of you getting to a place of what feeds my peace, my perspective, my sanity, but also the longevity of my children. Because now when you bring another body, when you bring a child into this world, now you got to move from being selfish to selfless, right? What somebody does or does not do, the child now needs all of the resources for their level of sustainability. So it goes back to healthy boundaries, goes back to teaching people how to treat you. And then it also goes to the fact of you flexing your no muscle. You can't draw a line in the sand and then back away from it.
Yeah.
You got to draw a line in the sand, step to the plate and the line with confidence. I don't care if your voice trembles. You got to stand your ground and mean what you say. And let your actions speak to the words, showcase what you're saying as well. Actions have to line up with the words that you're speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes the man can't understand what you're saying for what you're doing. You saying no, but you laughing. I can't take anybody seriously like that.
That's good. That's good. Okay, cool. Well, okay, this is the last one. Last one, y'all. Last question. Hey, Amanda. Amanda just joined us. She's another DEA family member. How do you deal with a father who chooses not to be there, but rather sends money, but puts on sob story for everyone else, and a toxic grandmother who doesn't know how to stay out of the mix? Okay. So how do you deal with a father who chooses not to be there, but sends money, and he puts on a sob story for everyone else?
Well, I mean, I've been the child where the father would send money and, he may have visitation, but didn't show up. Or or didn't even, or stopped giving the money financially. I've been on both sides of that too. So, I mean, sometimes you just got to deal with people from a distance, and too many times we're trying to make people do what they don't want to do. And then when we make them try to do what we want them to do, or they do it begrudgingly, is never done with a pure heart, is never done with any love. That's the intent at all. Let them have their sob story.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to swallow the pill of knowing that what they say are lies when you know what the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if you really think about it, sometimes you're protecting other people's character because you don't even share the truth. If you shared the real truth about who they were,
Mm-hmm.
hey, it blow the whole place to smithereens. But you're taking the high road. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the second question about a toxic grandmother who don't know how to stay out the mix. Listen, you toxic people and things of that nature. That's what comes as a result of it. The dissolution of a marriage or the dissolution of a connection. Um, Giraffes aren't concerned with what turtles are doing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You keep your
Yeah.
mind on the next level versus somebody who's a toxic grandmother. I don't know if the grandmother is yours specifically or if it's his grandmother, whatever the case may be. But like I said, healthy boundaries, being able to protect the peace, the serenity and sanity of yourself, but also your child. Everything that goes on outside of that, that's not feeding you, don't concern yourself with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And with that, we're going to bring this live stream to a close. So listen, this was amazing. Thank you, Dr. Conner, for answering these questions, these tough questions, and sharing your insight and your wisdom with us tonight. If you all want to go deeper in this conversation, you just want to learn how to just heal, just from this particular situation, I highly recommend you join Dr. Eddie Conner Relationship Academy. Okay. I'm a part of the academy. Okay. So I recommend for everyone to join his academy. What's the link again, Dr. Conner?
Yes, it's dreddieacademy.com, Dreddie, academy.com. And I'd love for you all to get signed up. We have incredible live sessions every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock p.m. If you miss a session, that's the beauty of it. We have an online portal where you can go and catch up on all past sessions. We've probably got about 100 plus hours of content in our online portal. We have a private Facebook group where we deal with questions like this, where we talk about relationships. And it is a community of individuals who want to grow, of leaders, of movers, of shakers, of doers, who are all about creating community. And that's what you need to be. You need to be in a safe space and place to be able to talk about many of the tough things and bounce ideas off of individuals who and beyond just who you know. You need to get perspective of people who may not know you, but you can forge connections and build network and relationships with so many incredible individuals like a Tequila Coleman. So I encourage you to join us, dreddieacademy.com. We're focused on love, leadership, leveraging your purpose. And this is a transparent, truthful, creative, incredible community that you will thrive in.
Yeah. And go pick up a copy of his book, Relationship Rules.
Yes. Relationship Rules. How to Win at Love, Leadership, Leveraging Your Purpose. We talk about a number of different rules in there. I'll give one of the specific rules. There's 12 rules, but the 12 rules all at the 14 rules actually. 14 rules at the back of the book. But there's a whole lot that I'm saying even prior to we get to the back. But one is follow your heart. That's the worst advice that you could possibly ever be given. Too many people are following their heart like it's a social media handle. The heart is the most desperately wicked. Above all, who can know it is what scripture says. Your heart will take you where your mind can't keep you. Sometimes your heart takes you where your body can't sustain you. And so going beyond just somebody's heart? What's the mind, will, and the emotions? And when you even think about longevity of marriage, marriage is about more than love. Marriage is about more than romance. Marriage is about purpose and it's about duty. When you're saying a vow to somebody, this is beyond just how I feel and about me acquiescing to my feelings. Don't follow your heart. Follow God's leading and his spirit. Follow the discernment and the direction that he gives you. So you don't do permanent things with temporary people, and so that you don't stay in places where you don't belong. And that's what it is. Too many times we're the right gift, but we're in the wrong location.
Yes. Yep. I hope I typed that in there right. Dr. Eddie. I should know this. Dr. Eddie Academy.
Oh yeah, DrEddieAcademy.com. Yes. And they can get the book. It's available as an ebook, audiobook, hard copy, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, iTunes, Audible, or DrEddieAcademy.com/book.
Yeah.
There it is.
All the links are posted below in the description area. So just click the link. Come on over to the Academy, and it's time to heal. It's time to go to that next level. So thank you again, Dr. Connor. I appreciate you. You were amazing. And we got to do this again. All right. So
Absolutely. Appreciate you for a courageous conversation, bringing this to light.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Yep. So everyone have a great night, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good night.